those seam fins are mine. You took those off of my tail. You traced them and you tried to make them look. I think I'm not gonna notice my own artwork just chillin'. Hey my fishes, welcome back to another video. Today we're going to be talking about rip-off mermaid tails and cheap knockoffs. Because you know what? I have had it. I have truly had it. I really have. So I warn you now, this is going to be raw and real. We are going to get into it. We're actually going to talk about the company specifically, so if that interests you, buckle up. Okay, so before we get into all the meat and potatoes of today's video, let's talk about who the sort of key players are, the mermaid tail makers who have been around kind of since the dawn of mermaiding. Okay, so Hannah Mermaid, if you have been in the community at all, chances are you have seen Hannah Mermaid in some capacity or you know of her. She's been around forever. I think it's believed that she is one of the first mermaids to actually turn this into a job. This was her first she was like the mermaid, our mermom, if you will. The one who kind of paved the way for this as an industry. And then, of course, we have mertailor, finfun, and of course, finfolk. Now, I have picked these four specifically because they were the four that I knew of sooner rather than later as I kind of got into everything. So there may be others depending on where you kind of came in and got into mermaiding. So it might look a little bit different for you. This is all going to be from my perspective, so please keep that in mind. Now, the other reason that I have picked these four as kind of the key players in all of this is they have the most iconic styles, the most iconic shapes within the community. And what does that basically mean? It basically means that down to their scales, these four companies, from a distance, you can recognize them with ease. I also refer to Hannah Mermaid as a company, but she is, I think, an independent mermaid. She makes her own tails, and I include her because she has been ripped off definitely more than once. I feel like I'm leaning really close into the camera here. But these four companies have done such an excellent job of branding themselves in such a way that they have become, they're sort of like, you know how you can see those Mickey Mouse ears and from a distance you know that's Mickey Mouse. Do you know what I mean? Of that kind of a vibe. Like the details on these tails specifically are really recognizable, which is why when you see them used by other companies and things, like alarms start to go off. And now let's talk a little bit about the sort of key players when it comes to really problematic tail makers and other mermaid companies. So Swimtails, aka Aquarius, aka Shallow Mermaid, aka they've closed again, so who knows if they'll ever come back as another company. I gotta say, here's one that is problematic out the wazoo for a lot of different reasons. They've had issues in the past, lots of issues in the past, and while not all of them revolve around necessarily directly ripping off artists, there have been instances where, you know, other tail makers have mentioned like, ooh, the similarities between what you did and what I did are a little bit too close considering that, you know, this other tail maker came out with it first. It's a little bit suspicious. Now, nobody is really free and clear of similarities between tails. So what we're actually talking about today is the uncanny. Okay, we are not talking about like, oh, I made a pink and purple tail and they made a pink and purple tail. They're ripping me off, because that's not a thing. Like I do think I want to make a video to explain to everybody in the community that there is a difference between ripping somebody off, copying somebody, and using something for inspiration. I can't. I fucking can't, man. There are so many people who either don't know the difference or don't know the difference. Do you know what I mean? There are two different sides of not grasping this for a concept, and it's like, it's painful. It's honest to Zeus, it's painful. So back to Swimtails. They are also a very recognizable kind of design. Like this designer, whoever's making their art for their tails, has a very specific kind of a look. Like it's very, I'd say a little busy, a little noisy, a little bit more narrow and then coming out bigger, were lots of extra fins, a lot of extra thing. When I say noisy and busy, I meant not as the offensive, like, oh, it's so busy looking and so noisy. I just mean there's a lot of detail going on, and the noise, I mean more in terms of the design aspect when something has like a lot of texture, that kind of noise. Okay, I just realized what that sounded like, and I'm not offending this person. Your work is beautiful. A lot of your tales are very original and very unique and gorgeous. I may not agree with everything that you do, but hey, that's not my business. We've all made mistakes. What are you gonna do? But yeah, they definitely have gotten too close for comfort in some other areas. So I want to go into all of that. I want to talk about it specifically, but there's another tailmaker involved who just decided that I wasn't allowed to have boundaries, and then they just blocked me on a bunch of stuff. So, I mean, whatever. You do you. Then there is Aqua Mermaid. I'm just asking for it by even mentioning this. It's disappointing. So while their tails aren't necessarily ripoffs specifically of other companies, there was an instance a while back, and it's disappointing that the thumbnail is still up. On their YouTube channel, Marielle is wearing, in one image, it's a small image, but that is how iconic those finfolk scales are, that you can see them from a distance. I do believe that she was made aware of it and did take that item out of her shop, but I do see that the thumbnail is still there, and I guess whatever, if she's not, profiting off of it, then it's fine, maybe. I just felt like, oh gosh, it was brought to your attention, and finfolk scales are so iconic. Finfolk scales, it doesn't even matter. If you even trace them a little bit, I'm gonna notice. For reference, okay? I have been working in Photoshop for 20 plus years, okay? I have been a professional graphic designer in animation, character designer. I have done a little bit of everything, a little bit of web design, a little bit of this, a little bit of that, a little bit of photo editing, manipulation, all the things. Like, this is what I do. This is my specialty, okay? I can so easily see when something has been edited and something has been changed. It's so simple to overlay something. I mean, there was a certain court case recently that we are all, I'm sure, familiar with, where you can see that the two images are the same. It's as easy as overlaying this shit in Photoshop and being able to see. That's just, we're gonna stick a pin in that because whatever. I don't think people clue in, And then there's Mermaid Aqua, or Mermaid Aqua Tails, or whatever it is that they're calling themselves. Not to be confused with Aqua Mermaid. I mean, and I saw people, this just kills me. I saw people who were like, oh, like, it's not a big deal. I'm sure that they're going to get upset about it. I'm sorry. Depending on who came first, like, I don't know who came first, the chicken or the Aqua Mermaid. I'm not sure who came first here. But I would be pissed. I would be pissed if somebody came out, and there are a few other Courtney mermaids out there. There's one who I always get into trouble with. It drives her crazy that everybody tags her, but I didn't get that account name fast enough, so that Courtney Mermaid on Instagram isn't me. Just so everybody's clear, but she gets tagged and everything, so I'm sorry about that. You ever want to sell me your Instagram handle, like, let me know, hit me up. But yeah, I'd be pissed. I'd be like, yo, like, say Aqua Mermaid came first and then Mermaid Aqua's out there. Like, that's an easy mistake to make for people to get confused. It wouldn't be good, Like that other tailmaker I was talking about was, you know what? We're already burying ourselves here. So it was Aquaria's with a Z has kind of an issue with me. I'm not sure exactly the what or the why of that. But Aquaria's and Aquarius, those two had an issue, and I can completely understand why. That's a piss off. You are trying to make a brand for yourself and make a name for yourself, and you have somebody else who comes in who's just too similar. And the problem is people make typos, and then they're not going to find you. And then worse still, say this other company is taking your ideas and turning them into other designs, and you're like, oh, well, now they look so similar, people aren't going to understand. Like 90% of people are just not aware of this. And even worse still, there are people who have outright said that they don't care, and they'll just purchase a ripoff, like a fake or like a knockoff tail, because it's cheaper, because they know, like, they don't care, even if they know they don't care. What kind of a shitty thing is that to do? Do you have any idea how much you're hurting people? I know, mermaiding is not it's not an inexpensive hobby. I get it. I wouldn't have any mermaid tails if I didn't make them myself. That's a fact. It's too expensive. Okay, I got it. I get it. But like, you are hurting small businesses when you do this. There are other ways to get around it. There are other ways to either make your own mermaid tails to get your foot in the door, or different products that you can buy, or different things that you can use. I know that it's frustrating. Believe you me, I get it. Okay, I got it. But man, is it hard to listen to when people just don't care. This industry is entirely built on the backs of artists. Mermaiding, there would be no mermaids if there were no artists and no creative people working out how to do this. So just sit with that for a second. Okay, and then there's KN Mermaid Tails, and these guys really take the cake. Now, I am not sure exactly what's going on here, if this company is actually, like, did they buy a bunch of designs from Swimtails or whatever the hell they're calling themselves, as Shallow Mermaid? Did they buy a bunch of designs? Because they literally have just a bunch of the images, like, straight off of the Swimtails website. Why do I keep calling them Swimtails? They've been Shallow Mermaid for like a year, 2 years or whatever, so there it is. And what's worse about this company, actually it's all worse, just assume henceforth that everything is worse. It's so obvious that you people are using direct copies of finfolk's work. Like, I can't say for sure if the Swimtails, maybe they, because, you know, that's a thing, right? Like, if a company goes out of business, sometimes they'll sell their sort of their property or whatever, their IP or their designs or whatever to another company. That's a thing, because you want to, you know, break even at some point, right? If you had bills to pay, that's a thing, right? So I can't say that for sure. But if we look at some of these designs that are just so painfully obvious that they are finfolk tails, it's disgusting. It's disgusting. Now, I would almost be willing to guarantee that finfolk is not okay with this. There's no licensing here. Finfolk, if I'm remembering this correctly, I don't speak on their behalf. I'm not like, we're not all buddy-buddy, okay? But it's my understanding that they started making fabric tails because people were ripping off their silicone tails. They were photographing their silicone tails. And because of that, they were like, well, we could do that too. Like, we could literally do that too. So they started doing that. Obviously, you have to have this happen to you, I think, in some instances, to really grasp exactly how shitty this is. And that brings us to the most recent knockoff, which is, me, again. Like, just fuck off already. I'm so grateful. I'm so grateful to all of you who care enough to stick up for me and to say, like, hey, this looks too similar and all of this. The tail itself is not, like, the actual body of the tail down to the fluke. Obviously, you can see they've taken my work for inspiration, but it looks different enough, in my opinion. However, those seam fins, you little shits, those seam fins are mine. You took those off of my tail. You traced them and you tried to make them look, or you just blurred it and warped it and skewed it a little bit. You would think I'm not gonna notice my own artwork just chillin'? I am only making this video because you need to see what it's like. I am literally one person that runs my whole business. I do all of it. All of the designs in my shop are designed by me. All of the tails are made by me here in my tiny little cubicle of an office space, okay? And I do it all myself, and I do it for the love of it, and because it's my passion, and because I'm an artist, and I'm a creator, and this is what I love to do, and then I see shit like this, and it makes me want to just like open my head up and give my brain like a really good scratch, because I cannot understand how people think I won't notice this. There was, story time, a little while ago, there was a company, a newer company, who, has maybe caught on that I'm not super impressed, who basically took my website, my shop, and just copied and pasted a bunch of my verbiage. They just took a bunch of my terms of service, a bunch of my systems, my methods, a bunch of stuff. And it's so funny because, like, I give all of this information freely. Like, you want to learn how to make mermaid tails? I've actually got ebooks available. So if you're actually sitting there like, well, hey, okay, so if I want to make my own, how do I do it? I've got full instructions, full tutorials, step by step, everything I do. It's available over at shopvancouvermermaid.com if you're curious. But this is not an open invitation for you to just go and duplicate everything that I do. Take that information, use it to find your own magic. Don't come to me years later and be like, oh, like, why are you upset with me? And pretend like you don't know. Like, you don't know why I'm upset, why I might be a little bit put out by the fact that you just went and did exactly what I did. I ended up having to go back and change my whole website, all my systems and everything to make it different, because I was so grossed out by the fact that this had happened to me yet again that I was like, okay, well, I guess it sucks to be me, you know? Or I guess people think that I'm doing it right, and then people are like, oh, well, Courtney, imitation is the sincerest form of flattery. I'm like, yes, and when this happens to you, and you can feel how shitty it feels to be copied and ripped off again, you let me know. You let me know how that works out for you. Anyways, as I was going to collect information and stuff for today's video, I went to their website, I'm not sure how to say it, Merveille, I got nothing for you. Went to their website and I can see that they have changed the fin shape, and now it's very different, although I feel quite bad for whoever's gonna sew this because they're so thin. They're so thin and they come to such sharp points, like somebody is gonna hate their life. I promise you, sewing the ones that I sew for my Pirate Dreams tails, yee. Very good times were had by all. So I did at least notice that. But you know, the fact of the matter is there is a real difference between copying somebody, like plagiarism, basically where you just take that and put it on something else. You know, this you can see very plainly when somebody takes a photograph of a finfolk tail. And you have got to be dumb, though. You know, this is me trying to be respectful, but you have to be dumb that you think we won't notice. That you think people won't notice. When you just completely copy it and colorize it. It's so easy to do. I don't know if you know this, but it's really easy actually to take someone's design and just change the colors just really quick without changing anything else, just changing the colors in Photoshop. I kind of wish that there was actually some justice in some way. This happened to me with my arm fins. Somebody just literally took my design, traced it out, and was like, oh, look at this cool new thing that we've come out with. I mean, enough already. Enough already. And it's just so disappointing. You know, okay, before we get into the disappointing, let's just say how grateful I am to the community that I have who supports me and who encourages me and who purchases from me. You know, you are supporting one person's whole world when you do that. When you buy from not even just like, if you don't want to buy from me, don't buy from me, but when you're buying from a small creator, the happy dance that we do when we hear that little bing bong notification that we've made a sale is unlike anything you will see from any of these large scale companies who are literally ripping off the little guy, selling these things in a huge bulk kind of a situation because they have the resources. You know, people ask me, why do you only sell, you know, a couple here, a couple there, like 5 tails at a time, 10 tails at a time, 2 tails at a time? Because I am one person. I am one person. It's literally me. I've got rolls of fabric on my desk right here. I have to go and pick it up and drop it off and print it. I have to do all of the business stuff in the back. I have to do my taxes. I have to do the email correspondence. But it is disappointing when you see people within our community, especially people who have influence or especially people who could make a difference in all of this, if we just communicated this and we all stuck up for ourselves and we all let people know, you know, what's going on. And kind of when you see stuff happening, if you see something, say something. Like if you're safe to do so, say something. You know, I don't feel really safe saying something now. I'm probably going to get a lot of backlash for this. And I'm not going to be quiet about it anymore because it's, you know, is it my business? Maybe it's not my business, but like I look at a company like finfolk who's, you know, a small team as well. Like, I don't know if you guys know that, like finfolk's not a huge team either. They're also a smaller team. They're bigger than I am, but they're still a small team. You look at mertailor, who built his business from literally nothing, the ground up. And you guys know, like, maybe mertailor and I don't always see eye to eye on things, and that's okay. But even take mertailor, for example. We all get upset that he gets upset over his monofin designs and other companies coming out. You have to look, though, really look closely at the number of times that mertailor has been ripped off, okay? Because it has happened a lot. It has happened a lot, even recently with his new really cool mermaid flippers. What was it, like, those were up for like not even a month, and a friend sent me, they were like, Courtney, I found this on, I don't know if it was Wish or AliExpress or whatever it was, and I was like, oh my god, they literally just took the images right off of his website. That's so upsetting. And mertailor's one of the pioneers, okay, of this industry. I would get a mertailor tail if I wasn't a tail maker. Okay, that's where I stand with the whole thing. But like, and I'm not saying that mertailor isn't without his flaws. We all have our flaws, okay? All of these companies. But like even like FinFun, who's been around since the dawn of time, who makes some of the most like reliable affordable mermaid tails, you want to get into this, you want a really good experience for your first mermaid tail ever, like this is where you go, this is how you do, you know, you've never done it before, like this is a good place to start. But even they get ripped off left, right, and sideways. Left, right, and sideways, like just like everybody. It's so distressing though. It's so distressing and people just don't care. I've literally had people in comment sections be like, why do you get so upset about it? Like, I don't care. I would rather get a knockoff because it's cheaper. And I'm like, well, you are definitely not my people. You are definitely not my people. And in the long run, you actually do hurt this industry. Okay? Because without the tail makers, what would you do? You'd make your own tail, or you wouldn't do this for a hobby or for a sport or for a profession, you know? Anyways, I have ranted on for, I'm sure, a long time. I had so much to say on this though, because like, and these were only a handful. Okay, there are hundreds more. Like if you ever just look up like mermaid tail, like do a Google search mermaid tail, it's distressing. It's really distressing, the number of companies out there that are just left, right, and sideways, taken from here, just making a quick color shift in Photoshop or wherever, and just whoop, and there you go. And it, like, what? It's so disturbing. Anyway, it drives me crazy. It just really drives me crazy. So basically, the moral of the story is support your local tail makers when and where possible, okay? Do your research. If you're new and you're seeing this and you're like, great, Courtney, now I'm terrified to go out and get a tail and I've got a budget, what? Do your research. Do a quick perusal. And if you happen to be on a website and you're like, these tails look familiar, where have I seen these before? That's a red flag, okay? Follow it up. Ask questions in the community. Ask questions here. If you want to ask me, ask me. You want to ask anybody else, go. There's lots of forums and lots of groups and lots of people who are on top of these things. I do think next on the docket is going to be to do a video that talks about the difference between plagiarism, copying, and inspiration. And I think we're going to do that because that is something that is coming up a lot. And that is something, it's kind of a situation where like, I don't think that it means what doesn't mean what you think it means something else. So we should have a discussion. Anyways, if you found this at all entertaining in any way, shape, or form, be sure to give it a big thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe to join the pod, hit that bell notification so you never miss an upload. And otherwise, my fishes, let's be original, let's find our own magic. Enjoy the rest of your day, and I look forward to chatting with you all again soon. Happy swimming. Bye. A big thank you to the Patreon Pod for helping sponsor today's episode. The Patreon Pod is your mermaid home away from home with a private Discord community chat, weekly live streams with replays where you can actually watch me make mermaid tails live, as well as get exclusive looks at upcoming projects I'm working on and more. Please check out the link in the description box down below.